Hi, welcome back. I'm Noah Hahn. I'm here with Joshua HOCHSCHILD, one of our presenters. Do you want to say a little bit about what your paper was on?
Sure, I gave a paper about the importance of describing the Eucharist in terms of substantial presence as opposed to the more common term real presence. So talking about the development of the notion of transubstantiation as a particular understanding of what it means that Christ comes to be present on the altar.
I see. Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting and very good Catholic intellectual exercise to take the tradition and really try to unpack it. And this conference is a great place to do something like that, I think. There's all kinds of different voices and people working on related things. Did you find that the feedback was interesting or worth having?
Oh yeah, I mean I got great feedback, and I know I will have help from colleagues in improving the paper. One of the great things about a conference like this is with a particular theme, you realize how much it takes to do justice to that theme. So this isn't just a philosophy conference or a theology conference. There are people here with philological skills. They know different languages. There are people here who are working with texts that have never been edited, so they have paleographical skills. There are people here who know history, people from different faith traditions. So we're not just sort of all sharing one set of skills and asking one question. There are a kind of a whole network of interlocking questions, and we all can help each other to appreciate them and how they're related. And it's also relevant, right? So there's a sense in which understanding the history of the theology and philosophy of the Eucharist is also understanding the history of the Church, understanding the Catholic intellectual tradition and the Eastern Orthodox intellectual tradition, and it's relevant to present and ongoing ecumenical dialogue. So to the extent that the world is still full of people who weekly, if not more often, worship Christ on the altar in the Eucharist, reflecting on what that means and how they share a common faith and what it would take for that faith to be better shared and understood is it's almost overwhelming to think about.
The ecumenical color of that, I think that's really well put, because I think there's sort of a myth out there that in order to be ecumenical, you have to reduce everything to the lowest common denominator. When in reality, the true ecumenical effort is one which embraces what's best and most true, and then wants to share that, and then to have dialogue about that, I think. And I think I see that here because we're not coming in saying, everyone tell us what your background assumptions are about the meaning of the universe. It's, here is the sacrament, and here's what has been said about it. Now, how can we say it better, and in what ways can we say it better? And I think that that's what makes it so rich.
I agree, and I mean, certainly to have true ecumenical dialogue, you have to have people who are really invested in their tradition and want to understand it and want to learn from others, which takes, as you put it, you can't just seek the lowest common denominator and get rid of all the things that provide difference. You have to have people who take the differences seriously but have enough humility to think that they can share those and learn from others in certain ways.
That's
and
well put.
A plug for our conference organizer, Julia Klima, who is a brilliant philosopher, and in a sense one of his superpowers as a philosopher is as much in how he helps to distinguish and clarify and formulate questions as in the answers that he's able to give to them. So often when two people are talking and you can't necessarily tell if they agree, or you're having trouble putting something into words, what you need is the help of philosophical clarity, philosophical precision, even to formulate what is the question at stake and what are the alternative answers that could be considered, and what are the stakes in offering one answer versus another to that question, and what other questions could that be conflated with that we need to distinguish. That is philosophical work, and it's crucial to genuine ecumenical dialogue. If you can't get clear on what it is that you're even wondering about, so that you can have the proper context for the assertion, the claim, the statement of faith that it is that you want to propose, then you're just talking past each other. Then you just have people making assertions, but not necessarily connecting or learning from each other.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I appreciate Richard Cross's work so much.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic, and I loved his paper. I loved yours. Really trying to get very, very clear and very precise on what is the issue and what should we say about it. That's inspiring to me as a graduate student,
Sure.
who would like to be doing these things for a while to come, and to look up to someone like Jula or Richard and to say, there's where the bar is, and work towards that.
Well, it's really valuable to have a conference like this where we have people together in person. So it's been nice that it could be supplemented by Zoom, and there are people who have been able to present papers who haven't been able to travel to Budapest, and who've been able to participate in the conversation. But to have a core group of people here together so that we can build the kind of relationship and trust with each other to have those conversations. A lot happens in the sessions, a lot happens in the question and answer period, but a lot happens in the hallways, a lot happens over meals, a lot happens where we get to know each other and realize that in addition to these particular topics that maybe someone presented on, we have other things that we can draw on, other interests in common that we can learn from each other. And that's what makes an academic conference so valuable in general. And the scale of this is just the right size so that we actually, I think, as a group can come to get to know each other and feel like we're building a little community that shares a common project, as opposed to people showing up and wanting to have their say and then give someone else a turn. But that just becomes a collection of individual voices rather than a group of people seeking a common conversation that they're all joining.
Yeah, that's well put. And the size is just right. We don't have, most of the people are presenting, but then there are some who aren't and are still participating and finding, ways to interject and to participate and be part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Did you have any thoughts on the city or the culture as we've been able to just get a sliver?
I've loved being able to spend time in Budapest, and I came a few days early just so that I could walk around and I like to get a feel for the city physically and appreciate the architecture, and Budapest is a wonderful, humanely scaled city, very welcoming. It just sort of draws you in, and has grand main boulevards but interesting little side streets.
Humanely scaled, that's something for the books.
Well, I think that's an important feature of a city. And I will also say, just personally, it's a real honor to be here because I've known Jula for 30 years. I met Jula when I was a second-year college student and took my first class in medieval philosophy with him 30 years ago this fall. And that's why I do what I do. I fell in love with the subject of medieval philosophy, and I went on and studied it in graduate school. And he was my dissertation director. I was either the first or the second doctoral student that he ever had. And I've always looked up to him, and even 30 years later, while I'm honored that he treats me as something of a peer, I still look up to him. So for me, coming to Budapest for the first time is getting to see my mentor, my intellectual father figure, in his home environment. He grew up here. He drove me by his childhood home, and so to be with him in the place, the city that made him who he was, is just it's filling out a part of my imagination and self-understanding that was just waiting to be filled in.
We can hope it rubs off on us all a little bit.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful occasion.
Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate hearing your thoughts.
You're welcome. Thanks.